Can, but there is a realignment kind of a note, kind of a sort of a note. And it's funny, too, because just last night you sent us a user's message on our very own website, on Sikkim365.com, a person who's been pretty interesting to follow throughout this
yes, he has.
Realignment phase or whatever this is that we're in the midst of right now. And I have it, actually, this paper right here in front of me. That's the printed out version of this. And what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to make sure we leave that up.
Have a printed out version here, and one of the bullet points of what this guy said last night was Pac-12 has ordered their media consultants to again move the goalpost of the finish line. April is now late April or May. If you'll remember, there was kind of this loose date or whatever that had been thrown out there as far as April 15th, and that had been kind of touched on. So here comes this post last night. Again, Pac-12 has ordered their media consultants to again move the goalpost to the finish line. April is now late April or May. And what does that tweet say?
Go put it back up again. Yep.
The timeline for a deal is now late spring, early summer, according to a person with knowledge of the discussions. So that was dead on and very timely and funny to see less than 24 hours after first reading it that that's exactly what, in fact, is going to happen. So I've already seen all the reactions to that. I'm sure that's 12 and on's fault that this got pushed back again. Incredible job by Endeavor, while they're also, buying WWE and unifying it with the UFC and creating this branch-off company to also be, further causing chaos for these negotiations. Incredible job by all the PR involved here.
I just have to listen. That's from Stuart
it's just
Mandel.
at some point it gets to be a bit silly, and that point was like a long time ago, actually. But I wouldn't poke because I do feel bad for some Pac-12 fans who I know feel like a lot of Big 12 fans a couple years back, where they're at this stage just aggravated and probably to the point of just being pissed off that this thing won't get done, so they can just rest easy or not hear from the Twitter trolls or whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, some people on that side of the fence also have to be just real jerks about things in some ways. And so I'm sure that's, this right here is all BS too, just like everything else has been BS and, PR and all of that. I'm sure that's the case here as well. So nothing to see. But, man, what a damn prediction by our old pal there on the website.
Yeah, that's from Stuart Mandel, theathletic.com. And by the way, Jason Shear, who from really the beginning kind of questioned some of what was going on based on the fact he covers Arizona, which is a team that has been thought about as maybe someone that could eventually move. And they have, even their president has said they hope not. He goes on a 2-week deal to kind of help with Arizona over in the Middle East to spread their wings over there. And he goes, I've been calling 2 Pac-12 writers out for months about their fake timeline. How about now? Now, Jason's gotten angry because he has been blistered by those like he hates the Pac-12. It's not our job to love a conference. It's our job to cover a conference. And there have been times, believe me, when we have blistered the Big 12 along the way.
Yeah, and
one true champion is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Bowlesby at various points of his tenure,
Yeah, where he would say one thing and do another, or say 2 things at once, or
not
really
say anything at all when it could have gotten his team into a playoff.
Exactly.
But,
So all those things that happened. But, this is just, everything tracking towards, like the Pac-12 needs to have I would rather hear from their commissioner on all this stuff. And I guess the presidents have instructed him not to talk. But I think that's better to have right now a unified voice. But you can clearly see that right now everything that's going on is kind of led up to, look, it's going to be a minute before they figure this out, because what everybody wants and what's available is not the same thing. So I think a large part of this is going to be probably convincing all these presidents and all that who've said, like, we have to have 50% or more linear, or we have to have this, or no, we're not going to talk to this company. ION and the CW are not part of this, or whatever. Well, maybe those things have to change if that's what you want, because it's not available to you on Fox and ESPN right now.
All right, tell me if this is correct the way I put this, because we were asked again on the chat room of why it's taking so long from RH5. It's a complicated situation with not many slots available on linear TV. That would be Fox, ESPN, or whatever. There's just not many time slots available. And then on top of that, the complicated issue of trying to figure out the Amazon Apple part of it, and really how much do they want to go all in? We've heard about 50% streaming. We've heard about the money. It just became convoluted. And I think that you have some who may be interested and might have a lot of money, but they haven't done this before, Apple and Amazon, with a few exceptions. And they just don't move maybe the way that some others move along the way when it comes to media deals.
Yeah, I'm not going to champion like everything that Brett Yormark does. I mean, I don't want it to get like, to the point of idolization by any means, but he has made some very smart moves. And one of those was getting in line far earlier than need be to go and grab a TV deal. And in a specific case, getting in front of the Pac-12 because he saw the writing on the wall. As far as TV deals were going, and thought, hey, it's best to go ahead and lock in what we can on Fox and ESPN, two major networks. Yes, there's going to be a streaming element, but you're going to have games on ESPN and Fox, and that's what they were striving for. And so when they did that, they took up some of the inventory that otherwise would have still been sitting out there for the Pac-12. They took up some of the money as well, and the economy's kind of changed since then. It's not gotten better. It's gotten worse, and now you've seen all these stories about streamers cutting millions of dollars or firing thousands of employees and all these different things. So while they jumped in line and went ahead and got the guaranteed money, some may think that they left money on the table, but they exchanged the extra money for security. And so from that standpoint, especially looking at the situation right now, it's pretty brilliant because who the heck knows what a year or two from now looks like when they actually would have gone to the table. And meanwhile, the Pac-12, decided to hit the open market and talk to others and meanwhile, not expecting the Big 12 to swoop in like they did, and that kind of cut them off at the knees a little bit, but, still felt okay about things. But, yeah, getting on to Apple or Amazon, there are some non-traditional hurdles to jump there and some things to figure out that you normally wouldn't when you're just saying, like, all right, we're going to be on Fox or we're going to be on ESPN. So that complicates matters, is trying to figure out how you divvy things up, I think, is like the streamers. I think it has streamers, but Apple's not just taking anything.
No.
Then, Amazon's not just taking, you're going to give us Wazoo, Arizona State at 11 a.m. They're not just taking it. They all want some, quality. And there's only so much that you can really divvy up. So I think that's probably, Paul, sort of where they're falling.
Yeah.
And then the money piece is not exactly what they thought because, again, people are not just – this isn't 2 years ago when everybody's just throwing away hundreds of millions of dollars for content. So it was a timing thing, I guess, as much as anything is really what's – put them in a bit of a pinch.
Well, look, that timing, most of your life is timing, right? Where it falls. And so that's what, you're in the right place at the right time. The Pac-12 was in the wrong place at the wrong time or had an unrealistic view of what was going to happen. So that's why they are where they are right now. And look, yeah, I'm sure Amazon's not completely thrilled with all the NFL games that they get. But it's the NFL, right. And they have maybe a little less sway, even as big as Amazon is. This is what you're going to get there. And look, this is how big Amazon and powerful it is. All of a sudden, after a year of being on Amazon, they have that much money. They're saying, we can do Thursday flex games. And the NFL Players Association is the bleep you can.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
We're not doing that. By the way, $19.99 super chat
Arturo.
From Arturo. Congrats on 3 years, gentlemen. Do y'all think the Big 12 needs to grab Memphis, a few ACC schools, and San Diego State or Fresno, start grabbing schools in SEC or PAC territories to become more competitive against the Power 2?
No, I don't think you grab anybody right now. I think you watch and wait to see what happens, whatever that timeline might eventually be with the Pac-12, because no one's available there. Now, if one of them all of a sudden just gets a little bit antsy, or two or four of them, then you have a new ball game. Memphis was so close. They really were. Boise was in the conversation, and it just didn't work out. It did not work out. I don't know about their future. I don't know about whether there's still any interest at all from the Big 12. I have not heard that any time of late. I've heard the little whispers about Fresno State. Of course, we know about San Diego State, but I don't think anything you're going to see anybody grab anybody from the Big 12, at least right now. It's really up to what happens, how the Pac-12 responds to another delay, and if that occurs, then the Big 12, as Mack Rhodes or anyone else has said, will be waiting to discuss that with them.
I've been saying for the last month or so, whenever we've talked about it, there's not a supreme rush because there's still a little bit of time left on the deal, but you're kind of now kicking it down the can to the point of there is actually a timeline that's upcoming. You're starting to get into that territory of there's a year left, but when you bump it down another 2 months, you bump it another 2 months, well, that year turns into 8. You know, like that's kind of what you're starting to enter into. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. But, yeah, I mean, thank you greatly for the super chat. That's awesome. I do appreciate you. And, yeah, I think it's a matter of a waiting game for Brett Yormark and the crew. I think they're waiting eagerly to see what happens out west with this exact story. And they've made no bones about the fact that they'll be ready for any fallout, if there is any fallout. If there's not, so be it. But I think those schools that you mentioned, some of them probably not realistic under any circumstance. And then some of them probably your pivot to if things don't go exactly how you want to out west. I don't think any of them are somebody you go and feel like you have to go grab right now. You can kind of just sit back and wait and digest what's going on elsewhere and see how that comes out on the other end and what is available. But, yeah, I think – you know, there's some schools that are probably looking up right now and feeling like it. I've seen some of their fans from some of these fan bases feeling like they missed windows, you know, like your South Florida fans, certainly see a number of them. Memphis fans, there's certainly a number of them. SMU fans are in a weird spot right now because, you know, that too, of the Pac-12, are they going to make a move? Earlier this week, it sure seemed like San Diego State was a foregone conclusion, and it still very well may be. I think SMU, on the other hand, still just in the mix for whatever that's worth. So there's a lot of waiting going on before I think anything, you know, super monumental would happen.
BU at 12 with Patrick. Got to say, Bowlesby grabbing the new Fantastic Four truly helped hunker things down. So if you think about it, Bowlesby, of course, was, I don't know if it's fair to say asleep at the wheel. Some people will say that when Texas and Oklahoma bolted. No one saw those tea leaves, right? He responded and got the 4. So that was ahead of the curve, at least after the curve. And then what Yormark did by going ahead and signing the deal to get that done and stabilized. So the Big 12's made 2 critical moves in the last couple of years.
And look, to Bowlesby's credit, you know, hell hath no fury like Bob Bowlesby scorned, because Texas and Oklahoma had been like pushing him in directions for years and then just left. And so he reacted the way that he did. I will, to follow up on Arturo, the ACC is just not going to happen. Like, there's not going to be we have their grant of rights. I've got a copy of it. Smokey gave it to me the other day. Read through it a little bit, not all the way through, because it's not exactly the Da Vinci Code, but it is. It's long. It is written in such a fashion that you've got like powerful legal minds from, you know, big time alums at big time universities that would are paid to like figure out a way if there's a way out of it. And right now they don't know, you know, so they're looking for reasons. It was well. And one of the reasons the ACC wrote it that way was, look, they wanted to guarantee the stability as a league for a long time out. But also I don't think if you went to particularly FSU, Clemson, North Carolina, at that time, and Louisville was just coming in because the Big East was falling apart. But if you went to them at that time and said, hey, one day Rutgers is going to make twice as much money as you, maybe even more, they'd have been like, at what?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do? And, like, it wasn't in their head that this was going to, in a decade, exponentially grow like that for the other 2 conferences.
Yep. Okay. No question about it. Garrett, I just sent you a picture, by